Welcome to this lesson series on the Python programming language. If you've always wanted to learn how to code, but no idea where to start, you're in the right place. In this course, I'm going to not only teach you how to code in Python, but also give you the background and philosophy of the language. I'm going to teach you practices which will make you a good programmer that works well with others and is an attractive candidate for a programming job. All you need to learn Python with this course is a computer and an internet connection. You don't need a particularly powerful computer either. Any computer will do, as long as it can load a browser such as Chrome. Doesn't matter if you're using Windows, a Mac or Linux. You could even follow along on a mobile phone or tablet if that's all you have access to, though the convenience of a keyboard and mouse might help. Now, I'm not assuming any knowledge on your part. If you've used a computer in the past, that's probably enough. The ability to navigate the internet with a browser will help. So let's get into it. If you want to learn to write code and become a software developer, Python is a great choice. It's a great choice for both beginners and seasoned programmers alike. However, if you want to learn to make mobile apps or websites, you might be better off with JavaScript. I have a separate course on making apps with JavaScript, and a link to that should be appearing on your screen right now. For everything else, Python is a great choice of language. So what is Python? Well, it's a programming language. Everybody knows that, right? What is a programming language? Well, it's a set of instructions that tell the computer to do something. Just like when you might use English or another natural language to instruct another person, your sentences are converted by the other person into abstract concepts or tasks to be performed. Python is actually what we call a high-level language. Now, what does that mean? If it's a high-level language, it must be harder to use than a low-level language, right? Well, actually, no. The opposite, if anything. Consider a person throwing a ball for a dog. When given the instruction, go fetch, the dog might turn around, look where the ball is, start moving in the direction of the ball at the default speed for the dog, pick up the ball with its mouth, return to the command giver with the ball. In this sense, go fetch is quite a high-level command. The simple command encapsulates all the tasks listed above, and the dog performs them without further instruction. We could break each of these tasks down into even more lower-level commands. For example, picking up the ball requires the dog to lower its head, open its mouth, apply force to the ball, and so on. Now, why am I talking about dogs fetching a ball in a video about Python? It's because Python is exactly analogous to this. Python is a high-level language in that we can do a lot with only a few instructions. In fact, within Python, there are numerous libraries of functions which we can call upon. These are just like real-life physical libraries, which we can borrow from. But imagine there were also tools in the library that we could borrow and use. So this is actually the first advantage of Python over many other programming languages. It's easy to use. Now, in natural language, we might break our instructions down into sentences, which are to be read in turn. Latter sentences may refer to things which were mentioned in previous sentences. In Python and all other programming languages, we break our instructions down into lines of code. Usually there's one instruction per line. The lines of code are interpreted in order from top to bottom. There are some exceptions to this which we'll discuss later. Lines of code in Python may take a few different forms. Of course, there are blank lines which we use to break up the code. Those are just ignored by the computer. Let's put what we've learned into action. There's a website that allows us to write and run Python code directly in our browser. We don't need to download or install any software. Head to the link shown on screen now. I'll link it into the video description as well. Note that I've activated the dark mode, which I find is far easier on the eye. I recommend you have this page open in a separate window alongside this video. You'll notice there is one line of code here. This is called a print statement. Let's break this down. At the start of the line, there's the word print, all in lowercase. Remember I mentioned earlier about the library of tools available in Python? Well, this word tells the system that we want to borrow one of those tools. In this case, print. Right after the word print, we have an opening rounded bracket. At the end of the line, we have a closing bracket. These parentheses have a double purpose. The first, it tells the system that we want to call the function, i.e. we want to invoke it. Number two, we want to tell this function something. You'll notice there is a word in inverted commas. This is called an argument that we are passing to this function. In this case, we are passing the string, we'll get to what a string is, hello world. Now we've got the run button at the top of the page here. What do you think is going to happen when we press it? Have a think and then hit it and see what happens. Now, when you've done that, I want you to edit the argument passed to our print statement. Change hello world in inverted commas to something else. It can be anything you want, just make sure it's inside quotation marks like it is now and within the parentheses. When you've done that, hit the run button again and see what happens. Now before we move on, I want to highlight something here. You might notice that parts of the text on our web editor are different colors. For example, the word print is in pink and the argument string is with inside the brackets is in a sort of greenish yellow. What's going on here? Well, the editor is detecting that we're using a print statement and coloring it appropriately. Many editors do this sort of thing just to make the code easier to read and understand. That's it. Now take a look at these lines of code here which start with the hash character. These are called comments and they too are ignored by the computer. They serve only one purpose, and that is to be read by us, humans. They might be instructions, reminders, guides, or some sort of label. A good programmer makes meaningful and plentiful comments throughout their code, instructing future readers to understand what each block of code does. Now let's head back over to our editor. Currently we have our print statement on line 1. Let's move that down to line 2 by clicking the start of the line and pressing the enter key. Now let's go back to line 1 and hit the hash key. You'll notice that the text is turned a sort of bluish grey colour. The hash symbol has told the system that we want everything after this to be ignored, i.e. this line is a comment. Let's enter some text here to describe what's happening on the following line. Now, if you hit the run button again, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, nothing. It's exactly the same. As we've discussed, comments just are ignored by the system. They're just to be read by us. Now, the next thing to do is I want you to copy line 2, the print statement, with our string argument. You just highlight it, Control C, go down to, say, line 4, Control V, paste it there. Now, change the argument again on this line 4. Put a different argument in for our string and hit the run button again. So now we see that there are 2 different print statements on 2 different lines. Now go back to line 4 and right at the start of the line I want you to put a hash, the hash symbol. Now hit run again. What do you think is going to happen? That's right. No, that line is now ignored by the system. We have commented it out. Now, commenting out is actually a very powerful tool in most programming languages. Say you want to toggle something on or off, or see what effect something has, or perhaps you've got a bit of an error or a problem with something, you want to test how it works without it, just comment that line out. You don't have to delete it. You can keep it for later. It's just there. It's sort of paused. It's a very powerful tool to use. So I think that might be a good place to end the lesson for today. Let's go over everything we've learned. We've learned that Python is a high-level programming language and that it makes things easier in many ways. We've learned about inbuilt functions and how to use one of them, the print statement. And we've also learned about comments. In the next lesson, we will be learning about variables, and I'll explain what variables are and how we can use them in our code. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye.